Good morning. I'm in Tewkesbury and I'm going to be exploring just a little bit around the town to show you what Tewkesbury is like. It's a really historic town and there's lots of things to explore. So it's just my early morning before breakfast adventure in the town. So this is a river walk. You've got the River Severn and the River Avon that comes through Tewkesbury. So there's lots to see, lots of boats, lots of old medieval houses, things like that, and lovely country views. This is the River Avon Navigation, which is, they've got locks and it goes all the way up to Stratford. And I have done this section on a narrowboat about 15 years ago with my mum and my stepdad. We came down the River Severn, then we went from Tewkesbury up the River Avon, from Avon Lock to Pershore, but you can go all the way to Stratford upon Avon. You can see it's lovely down here, and this is Avon Lock. So this is the Avon Navigation to come through here. Yes, this brings back some memories because it's the River Severn, the other side of that lock. This is the Avon Navigation. So you leave the River Severn, you come into this lock, and then you come into the Avon Navigation down that way towards Pershore. And this is the lock which we got the narrowboat at Upton upon Severn. Then you came down the River Severn, and then you have to turn into this lock, which is quite tricky when you've just hired a narrowboat. So I'm walking through the River Avon Navigation through to the River Severn, and there's fantastic views already. There's some picnic grounds here. Tewkesbury Abbey. There's a lot to see here. Let's go down to the water's edge. The water lilies, the moorhens. It's an old mill, look at that. Totally derelict, boarded up. So much history here. And this lovely bridge. It's fascinating though, isn't it? It was the Borough flour mills. So when they made the flour, and they would have transported it up and down the Avon Navigation. Or in the late 1800s or something like that. So I'm walking on down. And this is the Severn Ham walk. I think it just takes us across on a bit of, to another weir, I think. And then you've got lovely views from here to Tewkesbury Abbey, which I've not been to yet either. So I'm going to get down to Tewkesbury Abbey as well. But I'm going to walk on this, over this, presumably it's like a floodplain, the Severn Ham. And there you go, we are standing on one of the finest commons in the country. The Severn Ham is an area of outstanding national beauty full of wildlife and with something to see whatever the season. It's a naturally flooded, regularly by its surrounding rivers. The Severn, the Avon and the Spillgate. It is. I'm going to walk around it now. Oh, it's so nice to be out again on a Monday morning. I think it is regularly flooded here. It's definitely a floodplain. And I think it's in the news as well sometimes, Tewkesbury. I know Upton on Severn regularly gets flooded, quite dramatically. So this is the floodplain. Presumably this is all underwater. It's so dry now, obviously, but this will be underwater probably for certain parts of the year in the winter. So I'm going to walk to the riverbank. And yeah, the more I travel this summer, travel England this summer, the more in awe I am of our beautiful country. And the history is so rich, like Tewkesbury Abbey now. This Tewkesbury, there's so much to explore, so much history, and you really have to try and log off, switch off and get outside and explore what's in our natural environment and even in our built environment. There's so much to see, and that's what I'm going to be doing a lot more of in the coming months. So this is down now on the River Severn, and it was quite challenging on a narrowboat down the River Severn coming down to Tewkesbury. It's very wide in a narrowboat, and coming onto the Avon Navigation was much more manageable, but quite challenging making that turn into Tewkesbury, I think. This Severn Ham is an absolutely huge area. It's a nice walk by itself, just walking around the edge along the river. It's called the River Walk. So I'm not going to walk around the whole thing. There's a footpath in a minute that zigzags back to the Tewkesbury Abbey. The Severn Ham Walk. For a town to have an area that is home to so much wildlife on its doorstep is rare. It's a special place, so much to look out and listen for, from salmon jumping the weir to a huge variety of bird calls. They've got otters, mayfish, great crested grebe, salmon, curlew, mute swan, skylark, heron, cormorant, white-fronted dipper, elvers. It's absolutely fantastic, and again, I had no idea this was here. Just literally set off out my front door, and this is what I found. So I've decided I'm going to walk to the weir. I don't think I'm going to see any salmon, but might as well go as I'm here. It's only 200 meters. Okay, walking away from the weir, and now walking towards Tewkesbury Abbey. It's lovely to sit there for a minute, a few sips of my coffee, and off I go to the Abbey. So this is about halfway through the Ham, just cutting down the middle of the Ham, directly to Tewkesbury Abbey from the weir. But there's a whole other half of the Ham I've not explored. You could continue to follow, I think, the river round and then come back round to Tewkesbury, but I'm cutting it a little bit shorter just for time. You can see here it's more like marshland. This is, where it must all get flooded, and it's quite close to these houses. I'll do a little bit of research about the flooding in Tewkesbury. I think I remember it was in the news. Severe flooding. I think it pretty much surrounded the whole area, and hopefully you can see I'm probably walking through the flood water plain. I'm walking through the floodplain of the river, but I will probably be underwater, I would think, at certain times of the year. This is like a going up now, coming out of it, so it's a bit of a dip there. So this probably turns into a bit of a lake, I'd imagine. That's probably the lake there. Probably covers a big area, and here is the navigation now. So I can cross here. One of the finest commons in the country, Severn Ham. Another weir here. I think this is the beginning of the navigation, or the end, depending on how you look at it. These buildings are amazing. Look at these. These are incredible. It's just like you're on a film set. It really is. I'll walk past these now. Look at these. Picture postcard, perfect. It's fantastic. There's nowhere in the world like this. Doesn't matter what people say trying to run down our great country. It really is amazing. These churches, cathedrals, abbeys, so many, aren't there? Just on the Pilgrim's Way, Canterbury, Rochester. There's so much history. The Christian heritage of England. I don't know the history, but I imagine this is another one that will be 1,000 years old at least. And this is just all free to wander through. You can't get in today. Look at this tree. It's about 3 meters across at least. Maybe 4 meters across. So I may not get a chance to get inside this time, but it's spectacular from the outside, even if you don't get inside. And the surrounding streets, some of the houses, historic houses, they're absolutely incredible. I'm sorry, but I'm not going to run down our country like some, just for clicks. This is a record of what it actually looks like in 2026. And you've got the Victoria Gardens next to the river, the riverside Tewkesbury. And here's the photo of the flooding. It's like I said, this is what I remember. There you go. So that was the area I was walking on. Floodplain. I was in this area here walking through. There's a mill, walked through here, all underwater. That wasn't that long ago. I think it was probably 2024, or may have even been last year, but you can't tell at all that the water's even been here. But it would have been. The cathedral wasn't affected, and these houses around here weren't affected. Look, it came up right to the edge. Look, and now I'm coming into this park here. See, it's nothing new, these floods. The 1673 flood, that was a long time before. Obviously they didn't have the navigation then, so things should have improved. There was so great a flood that the water came into the chancel of the church. And then in 1723 it was memorable for a dry season. There had been little or no rain from March to the middle of November. So the thing is, all the reports of the weather being freak weather, we've always had freak weather. I know people will say, well, it's more regular now. So the Avon is navigable from Tewkesbury to Stratford-on-Avon, 45 miles upstream, one of the most picturesque cruising rivers in Britain. There's been a mill on this site since 1190, and the monks of nearby Tewkesbury Abbey had a channel dug from the River Avon to power a mill. These gardens were created by public subscription to celebrate the Diamond Jubilee Queen Victoria in 1897. What can you say? Absolutely fantastic. And here's another bit of history. Here's so much history. This is the old Baptist chapel. Domestic dwelling built around 1458. From the mid-17th century onwards, members of the persecuted early Baptist movement began to use it for secret, illegal religious meetings. Those days you couldn't have meetings outside of the Church of England. So we always had some sort of persecution in this country towards Christians. They've got the William Tyndale exhibition in Tewkesbury Abbey. William Tyndale, check out his history. The first New Testament in English, he translated it into English from the original Greek. He distributed it from the first printing presses, and he was burnt on the stake. Burnt on the stake because the Catholic Church at that time, or the powers that be, didn't want the Bible in the hands of the local man. And basically William Tyndale had put the Bible into direct hands of the working man, and the church lost their control because people could read the scriptures for themselves and they could no longer be manipulated. So that's what we should be doing, reading the scriptures today and not being manipulated by the authorities who want to control us. George Fox, the first Quaker, visited Tewkesbury in 1655, and he wrote the Fox Book of the Christian Martyrs, a classic about all the Christian martyrs who sacrificed and gave their lives for the faith. Here's a Toleration Act here, talking about John Bunyan. He was in prison, remember, in the Pilgrim's Way. I talked about John Bunyan and Pilgrim's Progress. He was a nonconformist. He wouldn't submit to Church of England. He was in a nonconformist. He wanted to preach from the Bible. This is all following William Tyndale's translation and the King James. Tyndale prayed that God would open the eyes of the King of England, and King James allowed the first English authorized version of the Bible, 1611, I think, and that meant the Bible was finally in the hands of the common man, distributed. And then the Toleration Act, introduced in 1689, it allowed more freedom of worship. There was still discrimination against nonconformists. They couldn't attend university and were banned from voting. These penalties had largely disappeared by the late 18th century. It's just, the history is just shocking, isn't it? George Whitefield, one of the founders of Methodism, visited in 1730 and preached to 3,000 people on his first visit in Tewkesbury, and 6,000 on his second. John Wesley also preached here to huge numbers. In 1777, a Methodist chapel was opened in Tolsey Lane. Wonder where they preached. They probably preached, I'll check that, but they probably preached in the open fields, because they used to have huge crowds. Can you imagine 6,000 people in the open air? George Whitefield preached. No microphone, no nothing, but he had such a piercing voice. He could communicate to an audience of that size. The same as John Wesley. It was called the Great Awakening, which was a huge movement, which basically meant there was thousands of people became Christians through faith. That's what John Wesley and George Whitefield preached, that it wasn't by works, it was by faith alone, faith in Christ and what he's done, that can save man. So they preached salvation through faith. There's a huge revival. John Wesley travelled all around the country on horseback. 1777, I think he was born in 1704, so he would have been 73 when he preached here. So in his latter years, I think he continued preaching into his 80s. He was travelling the four corners of England, Scotland, I think the whole UK, I think, by horseback. Miles and miles and miles. He'll preach from the spring to the autumn, and then he'll be back in London in the winter when you couldn't really travel. Amazing history. So there's a real connection here to Tewkesbury. I didn't expect this either today, but I love church history. I love Christian faith. I love the Lord. And these are all really things that I really hold dear. So I really appreciate being able to share these today. So basically, I parked somewhere here, and then I walked over here, over the bridge, and I walked down here along the river. Then I came onto the Ham, and then walked around the Ham, all the way around, along the river, down here to Mill Street, through Tewkesbury Avenue, and then had a look around here, Old Baptist Chapel Court, and then the gardens down there. So I was down here, crossed from Severn Ham, came through here, looked at the gardens, looked at the Abbey, explored around here, and then I've walked all the way back and I've filmed coming up the high street back to here. So lovely little walk, nice stroll, very easily done in an hour and a bit. So that's it, a nice 2-hour stroll around Tewkesbury. It's now 8 o'clock, so I think it's time to go home for breakfast. It's tempting to stop in one of these and get a bacon back, but I'm going to go home. Got lots of food at home, and I hope you enjoyed this. And there'll be lots more adventures like this before breakfast and explores different places. Hope you enjoyed it. I look forward to seeing you on the next video. I'll see you soon. Bye for now.